Hello, welcome everyone to the Unscripted Pause. I'm your host, Diane, as you know. So glad that you're here. I gave a little teaser earlier this week that I would be interviewing this is the last sister I'm interviewing. I done interviewed all the sisters, all five. This is it. This is my oldest sister, Judy. Oh, I guess I didn't have to say my oldest sister. I'm sorry, Judy. This is
Well,
my
I am.
Well,
I
you are
am.
the oldest. This is my sister. That doesn't make you old. This is my eldest sister, Judy.
Elder. Well, given that I was 22 when you were born, uh, I think you can say I'm your little sister.
This is my eldest sister. Judy,
You know,
welcome.
thank you, thank you.
Yes.
Diane, when you were born, I was in California when you were born.
No, I didn't know
Uh,
that.
I You
What?
didn't know
No,
that.
no. Why were you
Okay,
like on vacation?
I
You
had
didn't.
no, I lived in California. I was,
Where?
I had I I had just gotten I got married in 1965. I got married in June of 1965,
Uh-huh.
and my husband and he was in the Marine Corps, and he was stationed in Barstow, and we drove to Barstow. And when you were born, I heard, I got a little call that, you were born, and I remember having to go into Barstow was not, a metropolitan area.
Uh-huh.
And I remember going, I don't know whether I went into, I think I must have gotten it at the commissary at the PX, whichever, I forget now,
Uh-huh.
uh,
Uh-huh.
to get a dress. I remember buying a little dress, and I thought, and sending it to you. And I mean, I never heard anything else about it. Nobody called and said we got it or anything,
Oh my gosh.
but I remember that. I remember that. So
First off, I did not know that you ever lived in California. I know people are probably watching thinking, how you not know? How you not know that about your sister? I mean, well, I was if especially if I was just being born, how long did y'all live there?
not quite a year. I mean, we were just there.
Oh,
We came back. Shoot, we came back. It must have been like Mayish the next year in 1966,
okay.
because I got married in June of 65, and you were born in August of 65,
Hmm.
and then I got pregnant in, like, what must have it been, like, early the next year, because when we drove back to Columbus, I was pregnant. Um, and and when we stopped at when we stopped at the house, to see daddy, uh, and your mom,
Uh-huh.
and um, and you were in the living room in a crib, standing up I mean, you were just the cutest thing. You
Oh
were
my
standing up,
gosh.
you were standing up in your diaper at the, you know, and like who is this person? But you were very fine. You were very nice. You know, you didn't cry at the sight of me or
Okay,
anything.
good. That is so sweet.
Yeah. See, so that's the story of how you and your niece Joelle are like 16 months. She was born in December
Oh
of
my
66,
gosh.
and you were born in August of 65. So you're like 16 months apart.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. I love that. And I thought we'd talk about Daddy. Um, I love that. I thought we'd talk about Aaron Jackson Smith, um,
Aaron
AJ,
Jackson.
Jack, whomever, Dad, Daddy. And like I want to hear from you, and this may be hard. This may be hard to do, but what's coming up, like the first question, like what is one of your favorite memories of dad?
Oh, oh wow. I don't know. I remember I remember when um I guess I must have been maybe around 12. No, no, I couldn't have been 12. That was too old. I must have been maybe
Uh-huh.
around 10 or so. And and I'd been having pains in my side, and they thought it might be appendicitis or
Yeah.
appendix something. And I remember I went to the hospital for, I mean, it wasn't, I mean, nothing, it wasn't emergency, it wasn't, emergency time or anything. Just went to the
Uh-huh.
hospital to
Yeah.
check me out. And I was really upset. And I remember Daddy coming to the hospital and, talking to me. And then he wrote me a little note that told me, that there was no reason to be upset. And yeah, I mean, Daddy had a way with words. You
Right.
were aware of that.
Yeah.
And it was just, and his handwriting was so precise and little. And he wrote me this note telling me that I didn't need to worry about it because I was going to be fine and that everybody loved me and he loved me
Girl.
and grandma loved me and that I was going to be fine and I shouldn't let it get me down. He didn't say get me down. I don't remember what he
Right,
said,
right, right.
but that I shouldn't, I shouldn't be crying and I should just focus on getting well and going home. And that was really, really sweet.
Ooh, that man. Girl.
And and the other memories I have of him, uh, when because my grandma, I grew up with grandma. My grandma
Mm-hmm.
brought me up, and so when I would go to church, I was a teenager, and I would and we lived on the hill. We lived on the hilltop, which
Uh-huh.
was quite a ways. And so I would sometimes, I would get a ride to church or pop, my grandpa would take me to church, and I would say, I'll get a ride home. I'll be fine. And or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
if I was it if I was at church, on a week evening, and Daddy was there, and it looked as though I was didn't have a ride home. And at the time, I don't think he had a car, or his car was not
Okay.
whatever.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Or it's possible that somebody else was driving the car and he would ride me home on the bus. He would accompany me home on the bus. And I loved that. That was because I always felt so safe
Of course you
with
did.
him. I
Of
mean, it
course you
was
did.
like, and you had to transfer. You would ride, and you'd get the Livingston Avenue bus, and ride downtown, and then you'd have to cross the street and transfer and get the Sullivan Avenue bus to go back home. And he would talk to me, and he would tell me stories, and because I remember one time we were talking about it's always Bible. I mean, Bible, Bible, Bible. And
Right.
and we were talking about I think we were talking about how I was very nearsighted. I'm still very nearsighted.
Uh-huh.
And he said, he said, you really are nearsighted. He said, I bet that's what the Bible meant when they talked about Leah, Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob, his first wife, and Leah was tender-eyed, and Jacob didn't really want her. And he said, I bet that's what tender-eyed was. I bet Leah just couldn't see. I remember that so clearly. And and then when we got to the Wayne Avenue and the bus
Uh-huh.
stop, and Daddy would get off the bus in front of me and put out his hand, so I could step down off the. And I thought, oh, that was so cool. I love that.
Girl, that's
And the amazing thing is that after I was grown, and I remember, and I was living in Cincinnati. I was
mm-hmm.
grown
Mm.
living in Cincinnati, and Daddy came to Cincinnati. There was a convention. The convention was here,
Oh, oh,
and Daddy
yes,
came to
I remember that.
Cincinnati.
Uh-huh.
Daddy came to Cincinnati. This wasn't recently.
Yeah,
This has
yeah,
been some
yeah.
years ago. Uh, he came to Cincinnati, and we went down to the to a convention thing down at the convention center, wherever, in the evening. And my girls were old enough I could leave them alone for,
Yeah.
early evening. They
Mm-hmm.
were, and I remember, when we would walk from the car, into the convention center, I still felt so safe with Daddy. I mean, he wasn't a young man then. I mean, he could. I don't know. Although he would have thought he was. If anybody had acted in the least way inappropriately
Right.
toward me, he would
No,
have.
he had you for sure. I think that's like one of the like look, maybe lots of people think they have like the greatest dad, had good, whatever. I get that. I mean, and
But they
not
don't.
every not
They
everybody thinks
don't,
that.
because we had the greatest dad.
See, I'm pretty darn sure we had, yes. I agree with you. Pretty sure we had the greatest dad. I mean, he was just such I don't know, like hearing you tell the story about him taking you home. Oh, my hair, my little bun is coming down. About him taking you home on the bus, riding the bus with you.
Yeah,
I'm like, that
that was.
is hearing you talk, and I was just thinking, that's yeah, of course he did. Like, of course he did.
Of course
That's
he did.
dad. Of course he
Yes,
did. Yeah, of course. I mean, I just always,
it was.
you've said a couple times about, feeling safe with him, right?
Yeah,
And I think that's like yeah, I always felt safe with dad. I always felt like dad like had a lot of empathy and compassion towards his kids. And I always felt safe. I always felt like e even if I might have been hesitant to ask him something, especially something about the Bible, because I'd be like, maybe I should, maybe I should know this. But I always felt like I could ask him anything. I always felt like I could go to him. I felt like I could talk. I felt like I could talk to him. Like I didn't have it wasn't a father-child relationship where I felt like I was afraid of him or I was afraid of asking him anything or sharing things with him. He was just that way.
yeah. I mean, the only time I ever was reluctant to tell him something was if I thought he would be disappointed in
Yeah.
me.
Mhm. Oh yeah, you
I
don't
did.
want
I
that.
mean,
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't want to tell anything that would make him be disappointed in me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Mm-mm. Don't, yeah, don't
that
never wanted to. I mean, I've talked about this on it earlier, but that's just part of who I am. Like, I just have a people pleasing mentality and I don't want to disappoint people. But really, I never wanted to disappoint mom or
did
dad.
not
And
want to
yeah,
not
and
want to
like,
disappoint.
before we started recording, we were talking about like getting spanked, like your dad spanked you once, and then I don't think dad ever spanked me, but it was this whole thing around like I was good and I was good because really all he had to do was talk to me. Like say something like I'm disappointed. I'm done. I'm a mess.
And then you cry and you just, I'm so sorry.
I'm a mess. Yeah, I'm a mess. I cannot believe I'm disappointed. Cannot believe. And because you beat yourself up over it, that I have disappointed my dad. This is bad. I've disappointed my dad. You
Yeah,
don't need to spank me. I have just a good talking to was enough for me. Yeah, I think
yeah.
one of my like so I asked you about your favorite one of favorite memories. One of my favorite memories of dad is so mom and dad were already divorced, but dad lived like around the corner from us. When he was living over in that apartment on Barnett, he lived in that lower level
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
apartment.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
was
I
there, and I
remember
think
that.
mom must have been out of town. Who knows? Out of town for the Imperial Sounds, out of town for a I don't know. But I was staying at dad's, and it's a weeknight, and I hated going to school, mainly because I was bullied in school. They didn't know that at the time. I hated going to school. And I said to dad the night before school, I was like, Dad, um, can I stay home from school tomorrow? Like, I was like, if I get up and make you breakfast, can I stay home from school? And I think dad, because I think they didn't fully understand, because they didn't really understand why I didn't like going to school. And I think he really felt sorry for me. And he let me stay home. He was like, okay. And I got up and I did what I said. I got up, I made him breakfast, and he let me stay home. And I think, yes, that's my daddy. Thank you. Thank you, daddy. Thank you. Yeah. He
Yeah,
was, I mean, like, I had my things because like I can remember talking back to him once as a teenager. Yeah, that didn't go over well. Um, like that didn't go over well. That didn't go over well at all. But I don't know. I don't know. He just had a
yeah.
way.
I don't think I ever talked back to Daddy.
Yeah, good thing. It did not
Maybe
really,
I did.
it did not go over well.
Yeah, I don't think I ever did. Not because, I mean, just because it just it didn't come up. That's
Yeah.
all.
And I
It
really
was
wasn't,
not an issue.
I didn't really talk back because I wasn't one to really talk back, but
Yeah.
there was something that happened and it was with Michelle. Like, I don't know, there's something between me and Michelle. And dad kind of loved, just kind of, meant nothing, kind of tapped me on like on the side of my leg, like, no, like, just meant nothing. And I didn't talk back, but I kind of did one of these numbers with his hand, like don't talk, like I did one of them, which is as bad as talking back, just
Yeah.
bad, maybe a little worse to talk. And I don't remember a whole, like he didn't, like we literally were tugging at, I can remember we were on the steps of that townhouse that mom had, living in that townhouse. And I was like I'm on the steps and cause I was fighting him. Like I was literally like, and then, oh, it was
Oh,
horrible.
wow. No, that didn't go well.
It was horrible. It was horrible. Of course, I called him and was like, Daddy, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It was like, I don't know what came over me. I don't know what came over me. And I was like, don't, yeah, we're not doing that. Get that. I didn't like that at all. I hated that. I hated that. And I hate even thinking back because, like, why would what made teenager? What made me? What came
Well,
over? What kind of foolishness came over me? Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, lesson learned. I did not.
that was not a desirable force that was with you at that
Mm-mm.
moment.
No, 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 not at all. not at all. And so I think I want, because I don't know, for the people that do watch these videos, so I want to clarify and give context for a couple of things. Like one, you mentioned the convention in Cincinnati, and I do remember I was at that convention. I do remember it. I remember it mainly because I was a teenager and I was heavily flirting with a guy, heavily
Yeah,
flirting. So I kind of remember that. But so I just want to say the convention is the PAW convention, Pentecostal Assemblies of the World. That's a convention that we went to for church. And then I also want to clarify for folks that don't know, because you talked about you were raised by your grandmother, is that like because
yes,
we are half sisters, we share the same father, we have different mothers. Um, and you're like I didn't even know your mom died, you were three, right? So she passed when you were super young and you were primarily raised by your grandparents. So just giving some context and
right.
clarity for folks who might be like, wait, what? So clarity around that. So what else? So you want to talk more about dad? You want to talk about something on this channel. It feels so weird. Like on this show, on this channel, like we really just kind of talk about anything. Whatever is in the moment. Here are the things I try to steer clear of. I try to steer clear of politics. I try to steer clear of anything that's happening in the news that I just tried. This is a feel good channel. Yeah, it's about
Uh,
feeling good. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. So I don't talk about news, but we can talk about anything. You want to share something else about daddy?
uh, I found, did I tell you that I found, point of clarification, my husband just died
Mm-hmm.
um, last year, and I moved out of our three-story, five-bedroom house into a
Mm-hmm.
matchbox, actually,
Right. That y'all have been living in for how long?
40 years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And I threw a lot of stuff away without even looking at it, but I tried to make sure I didn't throw anything away that could have any sentimental meaning or
Yeah.
anything. And so I just grabbed stuff up and scooped it up and so now that I'm here living in my matchbox, I
Mm-hmm.
was trying to sort through all the stuff that was in my office. It's not that much of a matchbox because I do have an office. I have a bedroom and
Nice. Nice. Mm-hmm.
now I'm in my office and I'm sorting through stuff and I found a box with a lot of little notebooks in it. Now I keep notebooks,
Mm-hmm.
I write and I have journals and I do all that.
Mm-hmm.
I said, what is this? That's not my life. What is this? They were daddy's notebooks. They
Uh,
were little bitty, they were little notebooks about like that.
oh,
Those little note memos you can get at
yeah,
Walmart.
yeah, yeah.
And well, some of them were bigger, but most of them were about that size. And they were in Daddy's cramped little
Uh-huh.
handwriting, and they were, I guess, notes that he made when he was working on. Our father wrote a book about his father,
Mm-hmm.
and they were notebooks for when he was working,
Oh my gosh.
and that was
Oh,
just so amazing. I haven't been able to go through them yet. I'm finding an awful lot of stuff that I see, I didn't know I had that. And I'm gonna have to go through it and read it, but it has to wait for a while. But it was definitely daddy because when I read the stuff, I said, oh yeah, this is
uh-huh.
daddy. And
Uh-huh.
then and then and some of them he'd actually put his name on them. But yeah, and that was nice. I was
That is so special.
yeah.
That is so special. I always, not always, but sometimes, and I'm sure this happens for like every person, but you think about, like, if I think about dad, it- like being gone, it's like you wish you just don't know these things, like, or you don't
Yeah.
fully appreciate who you have. Like, you think you appreciated them, you're like, oh, I wish I had asked about this, I wish I had said this, I wish I still had something. Like, I wish, like, for a long, long, long time, I had a voice recording of dad's, of a voicemail he had left me years ago, like a day after my birth, a day after my birthday, calling late. And I kept it for so
Yes.
long. And I don't, and it just all of a sudden it was just gone. And it's like you just want things. Like, and so you having those notebooks, I'm like, oh, that's really like that's
Do
really, really special.
you have, do you have any of the any of the videos that Joe, my dead husband, that Joe made of Daddy's birthday parties? Do you have any of those?
Mm-mm. No, no.
I have
Why
to
why
see.
would why would I have those? No.
Well, because Joe used to send them out like, oh, you want this? Yeah, little, and he would email them to you, and whenever you came to the house, whenever anybody came to the house, he would he would
And
you know sit them in front of the TV, and
right.
he would just show them everything. I remember one time Marilyn had come to, she was just passing through, and she'd stopped, and it was showing in the videos of
Uh-huh.
Dad, I think his 85th birthday.
Uh-huh.
And she said, okay, we have to stop now because this is too,
Yeah.
you were gonna cry. I mean, we
Yeah.
were crying. Yes, we have to stop. I can't
Mhm.
watch any more of this right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
I mean, the lovely thing about Joe is that he did do all that, that he was interested in, he wanted to do that. He did record and he did take a lot of pictures. And yes, in the moment when those things were happening, you'd be like, Joe, please stop taking my picture. Like, he'd be like, no, Joe, enough, no more. But now it's like, oh, thank you, Joe. It's like so
yes, yes, you got
so
it.
glad that Joe was interested in doing that, and documenting so much stuff. But no, I don't think I ever asked. Like, I don't think I did. I don't if I did ask for something, I don't know where I put it. I don't know where I kept it. I don't have anything now.
Okay. Well, I have to see. Let's see, our son Eric. You know Eric. Yeah, from the funeral, and he took over all the digital compendium of
Uh-huh.
the Smith, Garland, Ridley, Thurman. I mean, all of the whole family, all his family, all my family.
Yeah.
I'll have to see if I can get some of that. And I mean, because it's all digital. I mean, Joe digitized everything. He used to collect. He collected albums, and he had like a whole wall full of
Mm.
LPs, long playing albums.
Uh-huh.
And that man digitized every one of those. It took him forever. He bought a he bought a
What?
turntable, and he digitized every one of his albums, and he's got all that.
Whoa.
I mean, he was he
That's
was
impressive.
serious.
That's impressive to do that and to take the time to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I wouldn't have. I'd be like, I ain't doing that. Um, mm-mm.
I couldn't have done that.
Okay, so Judy, we've been on like 30 minutes. So we've been on 30 minutes.
Okay, so I
So
guess
we'll wrap up. I always like to give my guest an opportunity. I like I'm on a talk show. I always like to give my guest an opportunity to like give some
yes.
like final words, anything you want to say, share like some final party comments.
Oh my. I don't really have any parting comments.
Okay, you don't have
Um,
to.
I mean, I thank you for interviewing me, Mrs. Higginbotham. I appreciate it, and I hope your viewers have not been bored to tears.
I'm sure they're not. I'm sure they're not bored to tears. And if they're bored, they just stop watching at some point. Whatever. Whatever. Well, thank you, Judy. I'm going to end the recording and say thank you. Thank you to those that are watching. Appreciate you. And until next time, which will be sooner than you know it, be well. Thank you.